If you are a fearful avoidant, I'm really curious to hear if you resonate with this. So, what I see a lot from different fearful avoidants is that they often decide, okay, I want to start dating again. And they decide, okay, I'm ready for some kind of love or relationship to come into my life. But on a personal level, though I may emotionally, romantically be ready and be open to that and excited about that, I can't start dating somebody until XYZ. Now, XYZ for fearful avoidance is like basically until I'm worthy enough in some kind of area. And I have heard countless times and in countless conversations, fearful avoidants have discussions with myself, with other individuals where they say, I'd like to start dating again. I miss dating. I'm wanting to find a romantic partner, but I'm just not far enough ahead in my career, or I'm just not where I want to be in terms of physical appearance. I have to take better care of my body. And they're like body shaming themselves to a certain degree. Or they may say, I haven't saved enough money. I haven't bought a house yet. And fearful avoidance have this dynamic where it's almost like I'll start dating when I'm worthy enough. And it's a dilemma. And if you are a fearful avoidant and you resonate with this, in this video, I'm going to take you through some of these undertones of what's actually going on at a subconscious level, like what's actually driving that perception, and also what you can do about this. And we'll go through that part at the end. So, first and foremost, I do see this in both avoidant attachment styles, both dismissives and fearful avoidance, but generally it's DAs with an FA leaning or FAs. So it's definitely rooted in the fearful avoidant. And one of the biggest fearful avoidant core wounds is I am unworthy. And so fearful avoidants have this dynamic of always trying to earn their worth from partners around them. And there's almost this belief that love is conditional, that it has to be earned, and that it's very transactional. And it largely comes from fearful avoidants having to kind of earn their keep in childhood when they were forced to deal with different circumstances that were out of their power, out of their control. And so they felt like if they sort of performed or achieved or showed up in some kind of really intense way, then they would get their needs met for love. And so what this does is it conditions the landscape of the subconscious mind of the fearful avoidance to sort of believe this and see this in their world. It becomes essentially part of their worldview. Now, while I do agree to a certain degree that, it's important to not have unreasonable expectations in dating. Like we shouldn't, for example, if we have no ability to handle conflict, and if we're not trying to do anything with our life, we have no purpose or mission or vision, we don't know who we are, or we're not working on ourselves, and we're not taking care of our physical health. If there's all 7 areas of life we're not showing up for at all, then we do have to make ourselves ready for partnership, right? So if we're not showing up at all, and then we're expecting to have somebody who shows up 10 out of 10 in all of those areas, has the best career, has their financial situation together, takes great care of their physical health, if all those things are happening, obviously we can have unrealistic expectations. And there is something to be said for individuals who expect so much out of their partner but aren't willing to show up in return, and that is something that does happen. I would say probably to 10% or less of people. That is the pattern in a certain amount of individuals, and we want to question those expectations and show up for ourselves so that we're a match for people who are going to also be showing up and investing in a partnership equally. However, there's a big difference between somebody with unrealistic expectations versus somebody who's essentially carrying those unrealistic expectations in the relationship to themselves, and finds themselves potentially thinking that I have to basically be perfect in order to, or as close as possible to perfect, in order to be worthy of love at all. And so this is a definite dynamic with fearful avoidance. And I want to talk about what to do for a moment. Because the striving for perfection isn't a very healthy standard. And it also is rooted in this skewed concept about love, as if like we're not supposed to be loved for our flaws. We're not supposed to be loved in a more unconditional way. We can only be a match to love and being lovable if we are excelling in all areas perfectly. And that's a very different dynamic. So, by the way, actually, if you want to do a deep dive into perfectionism, if you're hearing this and you really struggle with perfectionism and really some of the output of perfectionism, like feeling pressured all the time, feeling overwhelmed, feeling really stressed, feeling like you're losing the ability to relax, feeling like every part of your life, whether it's relationships, whether it's friendships, romantic, family relationships, whichever type, but also work, your financial situation, all areas of life. Um, if you just put so much pressure on yourself to be perfect and you get really stressed, if you feel out of control, we actually have a course you can check out for free. And in this video specifically, you can check it out for free for 14 days. We're doing a 14-day free trial right now for Black Friday. And we do this like once a year, give or take. And we may not even be running it next year. So it's probably one of the only times you're going to be able to jump in and get the 14-day free trial. And it's to our whole platform, but you can check out the Overcoming Perfectionism course. It's called Overcoming Perfectionism and Fear of Losing Control, which can be such a big thing for fearful avoidance. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the end of this video here in a moment. But that course also comes with access to the whole platform. So literally all of our 55 plus courses, you can check out for free for that whole 14-day period. And you can join me because I do 4 live webinars every single week with our students. And you can jump in there, jump in a webinar, ask me any questions. You can come on video. You can leave your video off and just type in the chat if you prefer, whatever you're most comfortable doing. But I'm in there 4 times a week, 4 days, 4 times a week, with all sorts of opportunity to chat, to go through questions, and to really add sort of like bonus content in there as well. So you can use the link below for that. And then when it comes to the end of this dynamic and what to actually do is to first realize that the perfectionism components are largely triggered by fears, right? Like you're afraid of what happens if you're not perfect. And those fears are largely rooted from what consequences you were faced with in your childhood when you demonstrated imperfection. So, for example, if you had severe punishment when you made a mistake as a child, you might fear that if I'm not perfect, I'm unsafe. And then because you're carrying that perception that's been ingrained in you as a program at the subconscious level, you project that back out onto all circumstances or situations. And it can be these minute things where like consciously hey, I'm not going to be unsafe if I make a mistake. But subconsciously that fear is there and that feeling accompanies that fear, like this strong fear underneath. And if you instead experienced being shamed when you made a mistake, you might notice that you're afraid of putting yourself out there and making a mistake in the fear of shame. And you might have this core wound that says I am bad or I'm defective if I make a mistake. And there's other core wounds that tend to sponsor this, but the other really big one is I am unworthy. And that will be seen and known. Somebody will see my unworthiness. They will see that I'm not worth a relationship, not worth loving. And it's this really sad core wound because that's not how love is. That's not what secure relationships are. We don't have to be in this like perfect place to be worthy of something from somebody. And it really takes that bonding out of the experience. So when you look at it through that lens, and you also do the work on a little bit of exposure work, meeting your needs around perfectionism, sort of some different things that course will cover in a lot of detail, and also how to reprogram those core wounds in detail, you'll see that you'll be able to move the needle there. And then also put yourself out there into the world and be open and ready for dating without all this pressure on it in the background, without all this fear. And really being able to put yourself in a space of self-acceptance so that you feel worthy and confident of being accepted by others in your life. So again, you can check that all out for 14 days for a limited time. And thank you so much for watching. And let me know in the comments if this resonates with you. Is this something you struggle with? Is this something you have struggled with in the past? As a fearful avoidant, I would love to know.